Hey there, terrible listener. It's a Sunday, and we have a new episode out. Well, allow me to be the first to welcome you to the very first Star Trek Sunday. We just wrapped up our Star Trek Adventures campaign that ran through September and October, and when that was done, we all had just a really good time and wanted to keep playing more. And so, here we are. Rather than continue to write our own stories, we thought we'd have a little bit of fun and join in on the Modiphius Living campaign. Modiphius Entertainment, the publishers behind Star Trek Adventures, are releasing every month a new chapter in what they call the Living Campaign. You can sign up for it right now at Modiphius.com and play along with us. All of these episodes are being released to the public for free, and we're going to see how our crew of the Horizon handles the challenges they've written for us. There are two threads to the Living Campaign, a timeline set in the 23rd century and a timeline in the 24th century. We're not going to worry about the 23rd century half of the campaign, but if you play through that half of the story, let us know at feedback@terriblewarriors.com how your story turned out, and maybe we'll incorporate the outcome of that story into our timeline 70 years later. The first episode of the Living Campaign, The Rescue at Xerxes 4, will be next week on Sunday. But today, we have to introduce the newest member to the crew. For every chapter, I'll make sure that there are 4 members of the Horizon to sit at the table, but I can't guarantee they'll be the same 4 people every time. Steve Saylor, our chief engineer, was unable to make it for the first episode, so Joshua Barbeau was more than happy to sit down in that chair and join our crew. Enter Commander Haddock. What you'll hear for the next 45 minutes is the lifespan creation, the character generator in this game. We did one for all the other members of the Horizon, and now Joshua gets to do one for his. And next Sunday, we'll put out the first chapter in The Rescue at Xerxes 4 in the ongoing Living Campaign with Star Trek Adventures. Buckle in, we're in for a ride. Thanks for listening and supporting the Terrible Warriors. Hey, Josh.
Hey, Justin.
Hey, this is cool. I'm excited to bring you on board. I've given you the rundown.
I'm excited to get on board.
You'll be proving yourself to this crew because you're actually just a passenger that they are shuttling. The runabout they're on is everyone's going back to Narendra Station. You happen to be at the same conference, so you're hitching a ride when tragedy will strike. And then depending on how things go, maybe the captain will put in a good word and make sure your assignment, when it comes up, will send you to the...
I'd be like, I like that guy. I want him on my ship.
You have the choice of Andorian, Bajoran, Beta Z, Denobulan, Human, Tellarite, Trill, or Vulcan.
Well, you know, I didn't know until 5 minutes ago when we were discussing it, but the idea of attending a nude wedding in the show at some point is exciting to me, so I think I will pick Betazoid.
Nice.
And just forgo all that with the intent to have a nude wedding at some point.
And in this case, are you full Beta Z?
Yeah, why not? Oh wait, I could be a half Betazoid. That's interesting too.
Yeah, well, and this is what they do is when you want to be like, for the case of Steve, he's playing a human whose grandmother's a Vulcan. But in terms of the mechanics of the game, you just pick what your primary species is, and you take the stats from them. With Betazoids,
that's
you still
smart,
take the
you
primary.
Don't get into the messiness of half species races.
The thing with Betazoid is you have to be a full Betazoid to get access to their full telepathy. If you are split, you lose access to certain talents because they're only available to someone who's pure Betazoid.
Right. So, like, for example, if I was creating Spock, he's technically a hybrid, but you would just use the Vulcan stats.
Yeah, he's definitely picking Vulcan stats. And to a degree, even Michael Burnham has... she's biologically human, but because of her upbringing and her environment, she has inherited a bunch of otherwise exclusive Vulcan traits. Right. So her demeanor and her way of dealing with things, she would get access to Vulcan traits that would be anything that don't involve mind melding. She's able to do. So it's kind of it's interesting. We'll get to that. That's step 2 and 3 is where you were born and how you were raised, and it doesn't have to be what the species you pick right? So Worf being raised by humans, right, is that whole idea. And so he picks up a lot of human traits, and that just for growing up in Russia. So
absolutely.
So, anyways,
I've always liked half-breeds. One of my favorite characters in the entire series of shows is Spock, and one of the most interesting things about him is that he's half human, but ignores his human side. So let's make my let's do a half Betazoid.
one parent was Betazoid, and the other parent. Do you want to go with human?
Human is fine. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Okay, I'm just going to type in half human in parentheses. You get the value compassion through understanding.
Sounds good.
Because Betazoids, their culture, because they can all read minds, and we see that a lot with Troy, they value honesty.
Because
there's no point.
She's a half Betazoid, so that's another perfect example of something to mold after.
Exactly. So she has a Betazoid culture being a culture of telepaths. They abhor lying because you can't lie when you can just read everyone's mind. So so they learn. When we disagree, rather than holding back, through compassion we find understanding, and through understanding we find compassion. And
I'm liking this character more and more the more I think about it.
So
I also abhor lying as a natural trait that I have.
Nice.
So that just fits right naturally with me.
You get +1 to insight, +1 to presence, and +1 to reason. Just for being a Betazoid.
Cool.
You get, as a trait, you are a Betazoid as people see you, so that will be your immediate trait. All Betazoids are telepathic to a varying degree, and even when not using their abilities, they are highly perceptive to others around them, but also highly sensitive to telepathic disturbances and mental assaults. They have little familiarity with lies and deception due to their open culture and ability to read thoughts and emotions of others. As they are sensitive to the minds of other living beings, they tend not to be comfortable around animals for fear of losing themselves in the mind of a wild creature. You can sense the emotions of most living beings nearby and can communicate telepathically with other empaths and telepaths, as well as with those with whom you are extremely familiar. You cannot choose not to sense the emotions of others nearby, except for those who are resistant to telepathy. It may require effort or a task to pick out the emotions of a specific individual in a crowd, or to block out the emotions of those nearby.
Sounds exciting.
All right.
So
Step 2 is your environment. Regardless of their species, Starfleet officers come from many places and many worlds. While many humans are born from Earth, for example, there are many more who are born on colonized worlds elsewhere in the galaxy, or on a starbase, or on a starship. A character's environment grants the character a single value, 1 point in a single attribute, and 1 point in a single discipline. A player may choose their environment or randomly determine. The environments up for grabs are homeworld, busy colony, isolated colony, a frontier colony, a starship or a starbase, or another species world.
Cool. So this one, I think it would be cool to do randomly.
All right.
Because it doesn't... I've always established that where you grow up is... Well, I mean, what race you are is not your choice either, but where you grow up is not your choice. So... as I grow older, I might have decided, I want to go to a frontier world, but in addition to where I was raised...
Do you want me to tell you what my first dice roll was, or do you want me to tell you what the two were, and you can pick one or the other?
What was the first dice roll?
Very first one, I rolled a 6, another species world.
Okay.
Which is... the character grew up amongst other species. They might have lived amongst a small enclave of their own kind, or they may have been orphaned by some manner of disaster and raised by aliens. Whatever the situation, the character has unique perspectives on their own species and on those they were raised alongside. So in this case, both Worf and Michael Burnham fit another species world.
Right. In my case, as a half-human, half-Betazoid, would this mean that the other species is neither human nor Betazoid, or would it be not Betazoid because that's who I took my stats from?
I would say, it would just be not Betazoid. Maybe you're a Betazoid, but you were raised on a human colony and you were raised in Starfleet. Or your father is Betazoid and wasn't around, and so you were raised by your human mother in a human environment. Or you don't have parents anymore and you were raised by Andorians. Right, like he doesn't. Maybe it is neither. Right, it could be. You could have been picked up by Vulcans or by others. But yeah, you're right. In this case, it might be that you're a Betazoid who has a human upbringing.
let's throw a bit of Guardians of the Galaxy in there and say that my father was a Betazoid who visited Earth and didn't stick around long, and then I was raised by my human mother.
A Betazoid diplomat who had a bit of a cultural exchange.
Exactly.
and so you grew up on Earth, but Earth is not your homeworld.
Right.
Nice. So you've got a bit of... So you're Star-Lord now. This Betazoid is played by Kurt Russell.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm going to write down your environment was...
That's canon. The Betazoid father of mine was played by Kurt Russell in the show.
World, Earth. Think about this while I write the rest of your stuff down. Values are... They're up to you to decide.
It's not like... it's not like something that I can pick from like a feat in Dungeons & Dragons.
Exactly. These are something that they represent your worldview. They represent something that is, in this case, this value is tied to your environment.
A good example of a good value for my character, going back to what we were talking about earlier, since Betazoids, especially empaths, don't really understand or get along with lying or deception at all, could I make a value along the lines of, I don't believe... there is anything positive that could come from lies.
Forthright over falsehoods.
Exactly. Because my character knows when someone is lying and always gets frustrated.
Even as an empath. Like, you're not a full telepath. Even as an empath, you're just like,
No, as an empath, you know when somebody is lying.
Don't bullshit
me.
And
that probably led to a lot of situations growing up where my mother was probably saying something along the lines of, you can't always call someone out on their bullshit because that puts you in uncomfortable situations.
Mm-hmm. So you prefer forthright over falsehoods. So now we move away from the environment you grew up in, and now we focus more directly on your upbringing, the nature of your family and your surroundings. The upbringing provides you with 3 points across 2 attributes. Where you grew up can have a massive impact upon you, and whether you accept that influence or rebelled against it will shape the rest of your life. So there are 6 options here, but for each of those options, you also have to choose whether you accepted or rebelled against it. And that's your upbringing was you were raised in Starfleet, you were raised in a business or a trade, you were raised in agriculture or rural, you were raised in science and technology, you were raised artistic and creative, or you were raised diplomacy and politics.
I don't have any strong feelings one way or the other, so let's roll for it.
Roll 1d6. I rolled 6 again, and that's diplomacy and politics.
Diplomacy and politics makes sense because if my father was a diplomat, maybe my mother was a politician.
Or she was the yeoman. She might have been the attaché assigned to look after the diplomat. The character has been exposed to the complexities of political thought and the nuances of diplomacy since they were young, perhaps because a family member was involved in those fields.
Okay.
So and
I have to decide if I'm accepting that upbringing or if I'm rebelling against it?
Yeah, so you either choose, if you accept the upbringing, they're disciplined and well-versed in the arts of debate. If the character rebelled against this upbringing, they've instead sought more tangible things to focus on.
Well, my dad walked out on us. Again, going with the Star-Lord idea. Mm-hmm. He's not very diplomatic, so let's say I rebelled against it.
Okay, so you've rebelled against
I'm going to be a diplomat that is not very diplomatic. This is going to be an interesting character.
You're a blunt instrument when it comes to the
diplomacy blunt diplomat. There we go.
More tangible things to focus on. You increase your fitness by 1, and you increase your reason by 2. So your reason is now at 3. Disciplines and focus. The character's familiarity with the practices and perils of diplomacy, politics, and the law allow them to increase any one of command, con, or security.
Command, con, or security. And before we upgraded command...
We upgraded command, and you also have options for con and security.
Let's throw this next point then into... let's throw one more point into command. Why not?
Okay, your command... The character's focus should relate to the character's preferred way of applying their skills. Examples include composure, debate, diplomacy, espionage, interrogation, law, philosophy, or Starfleet protocol.
I'm going to quote Spock and say that my focus is in cowboy diplomacy.
Cowboy diplomacy. Something
that Spock said to Captain Picard. This is something you don't do very much in your time, but we did it more back in my day.
We now arrive in Step 4, Starfleet Academy. We're going to spend a little bit of time here. The years spent at Starfleet Academy are some of the most memorable and definitive of an officer's life, shaping the direction of their career going forward. For those who pass the grueling entrance examinations, the Academy takes 4 years, covering a mixture of intense training, academic studies, and practical experiences. Much of this takes place within the main Starfleet Academy campus in San Francisco on Earth, but other campuses and annexes exist across the Federation, and a cadet may spend time at any of these before they graduate. A graduate of the Academy receives a commission as a Starfleet officer with the rank of ensign, after which they may wait several weeks or even months for their first assignment. Some cadets, particularly those pursuing a doctorate, choose a path that requires an additional year or two of training and study, and instead graduate at the rank of lieutenant junior grade. A character's time at Starfleet Academy has a significant impact of them in game terms. The way these improvements are provided will be explained in full below. You can choose your character's Academy track or randomly determine it by rolling a d6. This is your shirt color. Command track, operations track, sciences track. As we're getting into cowboy diplomacy and growing up on Earth and your human mother and your Beta Z father that you're estranged with, your values are compassion through understanding, forthright over falsehoods, and cowboy diplomacy as a focus. When you arrive at Starfleet Academy and you're asked to pick a major, what do you think you would have found yourself in? What shirt color does your character wear?
I think he would have been wearing, based on what we've already established, probably red.
Probably red. The command track. The command track is for those cadets who aspire to command their own starship someday. It focuses on leadership and interpersonal skills, diplomacy, decision-making in crisis situations, and an understanding of protocol and procedure in Starfleet operations, which includes flight control. Many command track cadets begin their careers as flight control officers and pilots, where their training can be put to the test on a smaller scale while they gain experience necessary. It might be possible that you're the one flying them back to Narendra Station.
Oh, maybe I'm the pilot. Yeah,
we'll find out. I mean, we already have a pilot on the crew, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are flying the runabout that's been assigned to them. Gain the experience necessary for more authority and responsibility. Command track cadets customarily undertake the infamous Kobayashi Maru during their final year. You gain a single value, which should reflect some aspect of your beliefs that developed during your time at the Academy. So we're picking another value here. And this, your 4 years or more at the Academy shaped another worldview. This time in your experience in school, focusing on command. Through all the tests and the friends that you've made, the connections, your teachers, you maybe talking with Boothby, you get another value that you're carrying forward here that will either assist or hurt in the future. These are your biases, your prejudices. Maybe like with your cowboy diplomacy, you've got a real I don't believe in the no-win scenario is absolutely a value that Kirk got while he was at the Academy.
For sure, which is an awesome value to have. Can I just steal that value from Kirk and say I also don't believe in a no-win scenario?
I don't believe in the no-win scenario.
Sounds good.
So it sounds like with the lack of a father figure, sounds like with the lack of a father figure growing up on Earth, you might have just been reading up a lot on Kirk's missions and his 5-year mission, and the whole romanticized era of the 12 Constitution ships that were sent out on their 5-year missions, and only 6 returned, and only 4 of those captains returned sane. and
maybe that's why I joined Starfleet, is because I considered, from reading up on history books, Kirk was my absent father figure.
Yeah, or just someone to emulate. In the absence of someone like that. The player must select either command or con as your character's major, the subject they studied most intently. The discipline is increased by 2. So your command is increased by 2. Your command is now at 4.
Nice. Don't need to put any more points there.
That discipline is increased by 2. Then the player selects 2 other disciplines, the character's minor subjects, which are increased by 1 each.
Okay, so for my 2 minors,
Yeah.
can I select medicine and security?
Yep, you absolutely can.
Done.
Nice, well-rounded character. So now we also come back to focuses. The player selects 3 focuses. At least one should relate to your chosen track. Examples for command track include astronavigation, composure, diplomacy, extravehicular activity, evasive action, helm operations, inspiration, persuasion, small craft, starship recognition, Starfleet protocols, and team dynamics. But you're picking 3 focuses. You also took classes in security and medicine, so you can absolutely take focuses from those studies as well, things that you picked up. So, having spread out among the 3 tracks like this, you're well-rounded in your education, so your focus can be anywhere. These are the classes that you took at the academy that you excelled in.
Gotcha. So diplomacy sounds like a good one. I get to pick 2 more after that?
You already have cowboy diplomacy.
I do have cowboy diplomacy, so I probably don't need diplomacy because
exactly
I'm using cowboy diplomacy.
You've got diplomacy.
You wouldn't use one and the other at the same time.
You absolutely. Now, you studied diplomacy at the academy. I got no problem with that. But there's no point in being redundant and adding another focus. So you've got diplomacy as a focus, and in your particular brand of diplomacy.
Gotcha.
But
okay.
Your other things here can be either focus more on your command presence, like your persuasion, not just diplomacy, or your inspiration, or it can be composure is one of the other options they give. Maybe you took classes on, command under pressure, or you have also took classes in security and medicine. So there are things here like you could take focuses in hand-to-hand fighting or tactical systems, survival, espionage, or you've got stuff with the sciences in terms of virology or psychiatry, I've
got 3. I like the sound of that.
Psychiatry can be fun
because
you can play psychiatry against people with your diplomacy focus as well.
Absolutely,
right? Constantly doing mind games with people.
Especially with my empathy going on. I picked medicine as a backup, not because of actual doctor medicine, but because you mentioned that psychology would be a medicine trait.
Psychology, medicine also covers mental health.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. Both counselors and doctors they train in the medicine track.
So for my 3, these are traits or values?
Did you want psychiatry, or do you actually want to take counseling?
Counseling. I think I'll go. Yeah. Okay. So counseling. Counseling is 1. I like that idea of composure under pressure. And you said hand-to-hand combat.
Yeah, we can just do hand-to-hand.
Because he definitely learned how to do the signature Kirk double kick. Yeah, if Kirk was his hero, he definitely learned how to do that.
I want to put down 23rd century fisticuffs.
Of course. There you go. Do it. 23rd century fisticuffs.
You spend a lot of time recreating the bar brawls from the Tribble episode.
Yes, exactly.
On the holodeck. You and your academy friends would go onto the holodeck and just get into 23rd century bar fights all the time with characters from the Enterprise and others. Okay, those are your holo novels growing up.
Yes, and I got super jealous when I found out that my buddy Worf went back in time and actually took part in that one brawl that I spent so much time studying.
You get a talent from the list. Now, I did for everyone else. I just picked out the talents for them because it's flipping through a lot of pages. And if you look at it, you can veto them. But we can have here, there are not that many. If we want to take a command talent list, one that really comes out here is advisor, which requires command 2, which you already have. Whenever you assist another character using your command discipline, the character being assisted may re-roll one of their dice.
That sounds perfect. I'll take that.
And so, yeah, you're almost a blue shirt. If it wasn't for the fact that your dad left, you might have ended up as a ship's counselor.
Exactly. He's like a blue shirt, red shirt.
You constantly had people like professors going like, you don't have to do all this command. You're focused so much on the violent aspects. You are a damn good counselor, and you should be focusing on mental health. But you're like, I don't want to do that. I just want to get into fights. But you've got like this natural aptitude to it, which is probably why you're running away from it.
Exactly, especially because they've got daddy issues, clearly.
We still have room for another value that you can add in. So that brings us back to the Starfleet Academy. I think that is it for Starfleet Academy. Is the talent is the last bit. We now go to step 5, your career. This is a simple choice. There's no dice roll for it. By default, you are entering the game as an experienced officer, a character who already has several years of experience in Starfleet, in service to Starfleet. So the default characters are your Siskos, Rikers, Tuvoks, characters who are like in the middle of their career. You can also choose to be a young officer, which is defined by their potential more than their skill. That caps your disciplines at 4, and you cannot take a rank higher than lieutenant junior grade. We already have one of those people in the form of Brent, who's playing a junior officer, and the veteran officer, you are at the end of your career. You have experience behind you. This is your Picard character, who has served on many ships and star bases, and their character's judgment and opinions are highly regarded by other subordinates. In this case, Connell is playing a veteran officer in the form of Captain Schofield. And everyone else is in the middle as experienced officers, which is your default. You can choose what you want, where you are. Like, are you fresh out of the academy, or are you at the peak of your career, or are all the best stories behind you?
Well,
where we're going, I like experienced officer. I think that works, and it doesn't.
Officer seems to make more sense.
Doesn't box you in.
Can I also say that I served on the Enterprise D, and that's why I'm now looking for a new assignment, because it was destroyed only 7 weeks ago, you said?
Absolutely. There's a lot of people who have found themselves in need of a new job. Thankfully, no one died in the crash of the Enterprise D, but they've all had to be reassigned.
Some expert piloting on the part of Deanna Troi.
So there's a lot.
Half Betazoid.
There is a lot of people now who have entered into the job market. A lot of free agents, and this is why you're kind of spinning your wheels. There's more. There's 1,000 new officers who need assignments, and Starfleet doesn't have that many ships.
There's also 1,000 officers who need who were just There's 1,000 people that just graduated, and there's 1,000 people that just came off the destroyed Enterprise D. So there's twice as many people as usual looking for jobs.
Served on the Enterprise D, which means you're the finest. So you're among the very finest in Starfleet. You're as an experienced officer, you receive a value that can be chosen freely. Now, this is interesting because we've now just established in your canon that you survived the Enterprise D. Is there a value you got from your time serving on the Enterprise?
Sure, that would make sense. That would actually be a great choice.
What did you learn serving under all of those people?
I don't have to do it alone. Maybe before I served on the Enterprise D, I was very much a lone wolf kind of Star-Lord kind of guy. But
strength in numbers.
I served on the Enterprise D, and I learned that there's strength in numbers, that teamwork trumps individualism and that kind of stuff.
You receive a value, you can be chosen freely, and you receive a single talent, which may also be chosen freely. Collaboration. This sounds work. You choose a single discipline when you select this talent. Whenever an ally attempts a task using that discipline, you may spend 1 momentum immediately to allow them to use your score for that discipline and one of your focuses.
So if someone else use my strength,
if someone else is doing a task that uses command, but their command number is lower than yours, you can collaborate with them and they can get your 4 command.
That sounds like a perfect challenge to take, especially given what we've just established for him.
You're kind of turning into Riker if Riker was Betazoid, like a blend between the two characters. The last biggest step is your career event. Your character's career is a tapestry of events and experiences, but amongst this, a few will have been pivotal moments in your life. A character defines which moments in their lives are important in retrospect and which seems definitive to an ensign in their early 20s, maybe inconsequential to that same officer decades later. I'm going to roll.
that I was on the Enterprise D when it crashed. Could that be my...
Yeah, you're going to have 2 definitive career events. And I can roll for the other, but actually one of them is ship destroyed, is one of the events.
Perfect. So let's roll for one of them and take ship destroyed as the other one, because we've just established I was on the Enterprise D when it crashed. So
1d20 is number 16. No, we already had someone get that, and I'd like to get something. It's a discovers an alien artifact,
sure.
But I'd like to get something different. Transporter accident.
Transporter accident
is a career. Something happened in your career involving a transporter accident. Well, I'll describe that in a second. But first is ship destroyed. The ship the character was serving on was lost or destroyed during a mission, and the character was one who survived. We already know the ship's mission, something routine. You were on the Enterprise D, Star Trek Generations. Ship went down after the Klingons were able to shoot through the shields.
Everybody knows about that. It was documented in a movie. So
thankfully, there were many survivors. There were injuries, but no one died in the crash. And it didn't take long for the recovery. So we know the answers to all those questions. Your character's resolve and competence in crisis has increased your daring by 1.
Awesome.
Surviving that moment? Absolutely. Your experience of a perilous situation has increased your security by 1.
Also awesome.
And
these are traits that I wanted to
gain
increase.
a focus which should reflect your experience, including small craft, survival, extravehicular operations. Your time, either from the destruction of the Enterprise or since, has brought another focus onto the table.
Okay.
And again, this is a specific skill, not a worldview, not like a value. It's like composure, counseling, cowboy diplomacy. Something happened through this that you've now focused in on something else, so that maybe you don't have to deal with that again.
Yeah, survival. Let's take survival, or even emergency operations. Either of those are good.
Emergency response. I'll put down.
Emergency response. Yeah, sure.
Transporter accident. I'm really excited about this.
So that's a weird one. I'm very curious to see how we work this in.
So if it's not working, you can veto it. We'll roll again. But the character suffered some manner of strange accident while using a transporter. The questions are kind of open-ended here. What happened to you during the accident? And were there any lasting repercussions?
Was I split like Riker was into 2 different Rikers?
I mean, there were a lot of transporter shenanigans when you were on the Enterprise. I mean, Chief O'Brien doesn't have the best track record.
That's true.
What happened to you, and were there any lasting repercussions? Like another example, there is Scotty just being suspended in the transporter buffer for 70 years, or
that wasn't an accident. He did that on purpose.
Yeah, or being merged. Although I would include that in the career event. Like transporter accident is just the title of it, but we can something happened, something strange happened to you using a transporter. Tuvix is another example, being merged with people, or when all the kids returned young.
How about, I think I have an idea how to make it work, but how about you roll one more time on the table?
See if that's more interesting.
And let me see if that's more interesting, because transporter action's not appealing to me as much as some of the other things have. But I do have a thought on that. If we do go with transporter accident, maybe after a transporter happened, he lost his empathy until the next time he went through a transporter or something like that, and that really shook him. We could do something like that. But I'm curious what else you might roll.
Conflict with a hostile culture.
Ooh.
The character was involved in a major battle with a hostile
that his
force.
Cowboy diplomacy might get him into.
Yeah, so
a major battle, like a war, or like
here's the exact description. The character was involved in a major battle with a hostile force and is unlikely to forget the experience. Who was the enemy in this battle? Why did the battle occur? Was it fought in space, on the ground, or both? Let's not worry about something that happened on screen. That's gonna box us in.
That would make things harder. Yeah, let's just go wider.
You were involved in a conflict with a hostile force, and you had to do something to survive that has left this as one of like It's up there with the destruction of the Enterprise. It's one of your other like big moments in your career.
Okay. So maybe this was before I served on the Enterprise. In fact, maybe my doing this got me my assignment on the Enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
How about... Okay, I've got an idea. You know how there were Klingon Federation exchanges?
Yeah.
Of personnel?
Yeah.
Let's say I served on a Klingon ship.
Perfect.
That got into a conflict with some Romulans.
I love it. So you were involved in a fight with the Romulans. It was in space. The Klingon warbird you were on board with, or the warship, was in the battle, and you stepped up during this battle. What
the captain was killed or whatever, and I stepped up.
Well, you assumed command of a Klingon vessel.
I assumed command of a Klingon vessel.
Holy shit!
Yes.
Was the battle won or lost?
That depends who you ask. The battle would have been won by Starfleet standards, but lost by Klingon standards.
So you got the hell off that ship after that battle was over.
Yeah. Yeah, like I kept the peace, and I stopped the fight or whatever, and I turned away the Romulans.
You used some of your cowboy diplomacy to get the Klingons to back down and live to fight another day.
Exactly.
And you used your 23rd century fisticuffs to knock out the XO, who was trying to take the ship into a suicide run.
Which would have been suicide.
And you used your composure and I don't believe in the no-win scenario to turn that all around.
Exactly. The captain was killed by a Romulan
And this is why you're en route to Narendra Station, because of your history with the Klingons.
Exactly. This sounds perfect. And I served on the Enterprise, so I know Worf, and how he feels about that is he probably thinks I did the right honorable thing, because he doesn't always agree with Klingon values.
Honorable among Klingons. I'm going to say you got a trait here called honorable among Klingons.
Sure.
They see you as like, oh, you're not just regular Starfleet.
Exactly.
So you're walking in with a reputation. People know who you are before you walk into the room. You needed to be tough to survive. Increase your fitness by 1.
Done.
And the harrowing experience of battle increases your security by 1.
Awesome.
You gain another focus, which should reflect the skill you honed during the fighting. In hand-to-hand phasers, shipboard tactical systems, or hand-to-hand combat. This was a space battle. You assumed command of a Klingon cruiser. I'm thinking evasive maneuvers could work. Shipboard tactical systems also work.
Let's say shipboard tactical systems.
And that's it for your careers. The last step is finishing touches. Cool. You may not have any attributes. I'll figure out this math here. None of your disciplines can go above 5. I believe your command is at 5. And then final check, your character attributes. I'll do the final check here. You should have 4 talents and 6 focuses. 1, 2, 3. You got 6 focuses, but you only have 3 talents. So
I need another talent.
We need to pick up another talent.
Okay, I think I've got enough from the command side. What about my security or medicine talents can I pull from?
Well, mean right hook is a talent.
Sure.
Your unarmed strike attack.
Really appropriate.
Your unarmed strike attack has a vicious 1 damage effect.
Done.
That seems to fit with this mean right hook.
I used my mean right hook against the XO of that Klingon ship.
It's freaking awesome. Okay, this is insane. Your character is, like, it was going somewhere. Like, your mother had very different ideas about what kind of officer you were going to become.
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally.
I'll figure out your stress and damage bonuses later. Disciplines. You may not have any disciplines above 5. Yep. Your department will normally be the same as your highest discipline. Your highest discipline is going to be command, so you will be a red shirt. And your role will be described by me, and I'll give you the equipment. So the last bit here is your character's name and age and a rough description. I don't care about the age part, but your name, you could have a Bajoran name, or not a Bajoran, a Betazoid name, and examples of Betazoid names here are Value may define some... Oh, I'm sorry. One of your talents must be... Or one of your values must be a relationship value. Connecting the character to another character in the crew or to another organization or culture in some way.
What about Klingon? The Klingon value we came up with, does that not connect me?
Yeah, absolutely.
To something?
So you have 4
That's
values. We're going to cross out one of these and replace it with the Klingon value. Compassion through understanding, forthright over falsehoods, I don't believe in the no-win scenario, and teamwork. One of those 4 is going to be replaced with this Klingon value.
How about the compassion one?
Compassion through understanding. Yeah, that's your Betazoid one that you got when you were born, and that's been replaced now with.
That's been replaced with my with my cowboy diplomacy, and other things shaped me more than that did.
Do you want? So, what's your value? You want to be like something like a Klingon, or burns with a Klingon fire?
I like that. Burns with a Klingon fire.
Yeah, so that's an interesting value there that you can use. Maybe that's where like your adrenaline comes from. Someone says you have the heart of a Klingon. There we go. I'm going to put value. Someone on that ship, heart of a Klingon, after you served in that story. This is your character's crazy. I love it. So that's your value needs to be a relationship value. So your character's name, it does keep examples here of Betazoid names. Male names. Betazoids tend to have at least 2 syllables and a melodic sound with a personal name followed by a family name. Of these, the family name tends to have a harder name. You're going to have a human family name. But your Betazoid name can be, they actually have Connell as a name with a K. Reban, Zanny, Enon, Dale, Etis.
Connell with a K?
Yeah. Andal,
that would be funny.
Colel.
I wonder if Connell will hate me if I pick his name.
Well, we've also got Brent as Steve Armstrong. So we've already got people using other people's names in the game. That might be a fun tradition to keep going.
All right, I'm Connell with a K.
Okay, and what's your human last name from San Francisco where your mother was from? Your mother's maiden name or a family name from a cousin that you had.
Connell Haddock.
Haddock?
Yeah.
Like the fish?
Like the fish.
And that's how everyone's like, Commander Haddock? Like the fish?
Yes. Yes, because one day I will be Captain Haddock. Like the character from Tintin.
So, Connell Haddock, a half-human Betazoid, growing up on Earth, served on the Enterprise, transferred with the Klingons, got a mean right hook after you knocked out the XO to take over the ship. You value Klingon heart, forthright over falsehoods, not believing in the no-win scenario, and teamwork. Your talents involve empathy, advisor, or not empath, as in telepathy, empath, advisor, collaboration, and a mean right hook. Your focuses are cowboy diplomacy, counseling, composure, 23rd century fisticuffs, emergency response, and shipboard tactical systems.
This sounds like an awesome character.
This character is insane. I'm just going to put this here so I
came up with it 100% organically on the phone right now.
Character sheet, Josh, and save.
Done. Well, Justin, my food is, I see on the table, getting cold.
Yeah.
So I will let you go.
I will let you go.
And then we have we will see what becomes of this character in a week.
Yeah, this is I think this character beyond just this weekend's game, there's a lot here to be like if we play a game where Connell can't make it, you're gonna be, I think, I'm leaning towards you being the first officer. So you're gonna be like, Schofield, I can't send you down on that planet. The captain's got to remain on the bridge. Yeah, well,
because you need someone in case the captain can't be there.
Yeah, Schofield is a bit of a reckless cowboy of a captain, and they've sent you in because of your experience with the Klingons. They've put you onto the horizon to keep him in check.
Sounds good. I am excited.
But no one knows this.
Right.
You're on your way to Narendra Station for assignment, and he's testing you to be first officer, and you're testing him on whether or not he'll be your captain.
Awesome. This is exciting. So my rank is commander. Is that?
I'm just gonna make you. Yeah, we don't have a commander on the crew, so I'm gonna make you commander.
Cool.
Commander Haddock. I also like how that sounds.
I also really like how that sounds.
So you got the 3 pips.
Right. I would have just got them, perhaps for...
You were only just promoted after the Enterprise. You weren't a commander.
The Enterprise.
Yeah, you've only...
I would have been a lieutenant commander.
You
would have
been a lieutenant commander on the Enterprise, serving with their diplomacy departments and other things like on the lower decks. And
Exactly.
after the Enterprise went down, they finally promoted you for your service, and we've got a spot for you.
Awesome. I'm very excited.